Hey team, so how do you keep pace during a race? I know a lot of you are grappling with this particular issue as well with your training. Without a doubt, you have to make sure that you're paying attention to your energy expenditure in the race and making sure you're not running someone else's race. Okay, I made that mistake earlier in my career as well. I remember running a half marathon in Virginia Beach, and I went out with Ryan Hall, which many of you already know. Ryan Hall is the current American record holder for the half marathon. I think he ran like 59:51. But I went out the first 2 miles of a half marathon with him in 9 minutes and 27 seconds. And it was a major mistake on my part. Okay, again, we have to always remind ourselves that it's a better strategy to run your own race and not trying to run or trying to get too hyped up in the early stages of your race and run someone else's race. Okay, obviously Ryan Hall is on, even when he was competing, he was on a different league compared to me. Okay, he ran the marathon in 2:09 versus my 2:19, so drastic differences. So in terms of how do you pace yourself in a race, you want to make sure that most oftentimes you're going to set yourself up for success if you run a negative split. You run the second half of your race faster than you run the first half. And that's not to say you're not going to be able to run a new personal best if you run a positive split. When I ran 2:19 for the marathon, I went out 1:07:09 through the first half marathon and came back with a 1:12:26. So obviously I went much slower in the second half. But when you've trained properly and you have the confidence to really make a major move in a race, and you've done your homework in training, then you can take those calculated risks sometimes. But again, it's a better strategy to be speeding up and passing people, and to have that glycogen and that extra energy in the last 10 kilometers of a race, or say the last mile or the last few kilometers of a 5K or a 10K, versus having to slow down drastically in the second half of your race and then just ruin your overall time goals. So, making sure that you're training at paces in training that are significantly faster than the goal race pace that you have in mind is absolutely essential. Making sure that you're training the body to clear lactic acid more effectively. Okay, there's plenty of athletes that can, say if your goal is to break 4 hours for the marathon, there's plenty of athletes out there that can do that for 16 to 20 miles. But the last 10 kilometers of the marathon itself is a major issue for a lot of athletes, even for athletes that are trying to break, say, 2 hours for the half marathon. There's many that can go out and do it for 7 to maybe 9 miles, but really have an issue in those last few miles of the race or last few kilometers of the race. So it is very, very important that you're paying attention to adaptation and making sure that you're slowing down on your recovery days, so that again you can continue over a long period of time to really stress the energy systems of the body, so that you get the best out of yourself. Okay, and making sure that you're not trying to cram all of your training in a short amount of time. Focus on a longer buildup. Okay, if you're training for, say, a 10-miler or a half marathon or a marathon, a minimum of 16 weeks is optimal, but really going 20 to 24 weeks, 4 to 5 months, and really preparing yourself the best possible way is going to make sure that you're set up for success, and you really have plenty of time for your body to adapt to the hard training you're doing, and you're not trying to cram it all in a short amount of time. Remember, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for your body to adapt. So the workouts you do today, the real benefits of the workouts you're doing today, you're going to see those benefits several weeks from now. So if you're having a hard time right now pacing, say, a 4 to 5 mile tempo run at, say, 8-minute mile pace, and you're really struggling with that, just stay consistent with your training, and I guarantee you several weeks from now that 8-minute mile pace is not going to feel so challenging to you anymore, and maybe 7:30 or 7:20 mile pace is going to be more of where you need to be starting to focus your energy at. Okay, and then again, if you start focusing on running at 7:20s and 7:30s after you've adapted to running at 8-minute pace, then you can move on to a more aggressive effort. But in terms of how do you keep pace during a race, is you want to make sure that, again, you're staying as relaxed as you can. Remember, the less muscular and mental fatigue that you're feeling and that you're experiencing, the better performance you're going to have. Look at all the best middle to long distance runners, even sprinters. The ones that perform at the highest levels are usually the most relaxed athlete. Okay, take confidence in the hard work you've put in, and make sure that, the day of the race or even a couple days before the race, it's okay to have a little bit of nerves, be a little bit nervous at times, but again, continue to remind yourself of the hard work you've put in. And really, the day of the race is the celebration of all the hard work you've done. So don't get too stressed out. Let your competition, let the other athletes around you be too uptight and be worried and overly concerned. Okay, make your mistakes in training. Make sure that you're practicing hydrating better in training, so that when you get in the race, you don't wait until you're dehydrated to start drinking. That's a major mistake I made earlier in my career, and I know a lot of athletes out there that, especially running these longer races, are making. They're passing aid stations. They're thinking that they can run a 10-miler or a half marathon or a marathon without drinking and without taking in calories, not taking in those gels. Make sure you start taking in a few of those gels in those half marathons and marathons your race, especially the marathon event. I would recommend anywhere from 3 to 5 gels, and make sure that you're practicing ingesting those calories, ingesting gels, and drinking and more fluid in training, so that again you run optimally, and then you'll be able to also maintain your pace a little bit more effectively, versus if you didn't take any calories or if you didn't take enough hydration in the race itself. So that's another major reason that a lot of athletes slow down in terms of their pace. Obviously the major mistake is we go out way too fast, way too aggressive, aiming to run someone else's race, and when we really need to focus on what is the pace that we were aiming to run, and do the very best we can to minimize going out way too aggressive and being forced to slow down, and then obviously costing ourselves the time we were going for. So I hope this video makes sense in terms of how do you keep pace during a race. Just make sure that you're running a negative split. Do the very best you can to not go out too aggressive, and then again, to be able to pick up the pace or to maintain that pace when most of your competition is going to be slowing down. Okay, it's a much better feeling, and I know a lot of you have felt that when you get in the last few kilometers or the last few miles of your race, you're actually speeding up, and then you get that new personal best that you've really worked so hard for over the past several weeks and several months. Okay, so hope this is helpful for you all. Feel free to leave me a comment below. Please like and share these videos. I really appreciate that. Obviously, it helps more people around the world to see these videos, and helps with the YouTube algorithm. So if you have any other questions or concerns, feel free to leave me a comment. I'll definitely respond to you, as you all know. And if you are looking for a training plan, running coach, or you're looking for a running course, there are those particular assets on RunDreamAchieve.com that are there for you to help get you to the next level in your training. So I wish you all the best, and I'll talk to you all in the next one.